Well, hello there, fundamentals of selling students. To make sure that we have the best use of our time, I'm going to create this really short video that just sort of reminds you some things before the role play begins, and then talks through the role play day, what my expectations are and how it will go. I'm going to share my screen here really quickly. And there we go. So if you look on Canvas, you will see some information here. Before the role play day, it's important that you read the paper that's been assigned to you, that you really understand what's going on. And when you get to class, have that on your computer, have it up so that you can work from that, because that's what you'll be using as a buyer during the role play. Where do you find that? You find it right here. Here's the paper you must read carefully so you can be a buyer, and point at that. So make sure you read that before you come to class. Make sure you also remind yourself of how we're grading the role plays. We've gone through that many times, but here's the role play grading rubric. Take a close look at that, because that's what I'll be holding you to during the role play. As we've said many times, half the class will be here every single Tuesday. The other half will be here every single Thursday for the next 5 weeks. If you're not sure which group you're in, it's here. You can look at that, but make sure you come every one of those days. Whether you're a buyer or seller or not, you still come all of those days. And again, to remind you, those real world selling situations and some possible solutions, it might be a good idea to look at that as well before you come to class, before you give your role play. There are also sample role plays that you can look over and over to kind of see what people have done in the past. So that's some information for you. Now, when we come to the day when you give your presentation, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see that happen. We start those really soon. Here's what's going to happen, and a couple of lead ups before that. First of all, have the right perspective. Is anyone perfect? No one is perfect, including this old man. We all have things we need to work on, and my job is to identify the things to work on as well as what you're doing well. And the student observers will be doing the same thing. So please have the right perspective. Don't expect perfection. See what happens and come with that. And I would say this also, on those days when you're supposed to be in class, I assume you'll be there 100% body, mind, and soul. You're not multitasking, you're not looking at email. You are either giving the presentation, you are the buyer for the presentation, or you are observing for the presentation, taking very careful notes. So it's critical that you do that. The evaluation form. So just so you know, you'll each do an evaluation form as an observer for every role play except the one that you are the seller. Even when you're a buyer, you fill these out. Okay. And here they are. So I've got these set up for the first day of class. There'll be different names each day, obviously. There's 4 role plays each day. And you'll click on this one, download it to your computer, whatever, fill it out and turn it back in. So if you're not Leonard, then you're going to be filling one of these things out. If you're the buyer, you don't have to have necessarily 3 on each side. Tell me what you learned or what you did see. So don't worry about making sure you've got a perfect observation form if you're the buyer for that role play. And okay, so there's where the observation forms are. They'll be there every single class session. They're at the very top of Canvas now, so they're very easy to find, but make sure you get those. And I would tell you that while you're observing, you have this observation form in front of you, but you also have maybe this grading rubric in front of you as well, maybe split screen so that you can know what to look for. I will videotape all the presentations to the best of my ability and to the best of the ability of the computer systems I have and the internet speed and everything else. As you know, things go crazy. I'll do my best to have perfect sound quality as well as a nice video, but there's no guarantee on any of those things, but I promise I will do my best for you. So how will each role play go? We'll just talk through the first role play. So let's say role play person 1 is ready to give their presentation. And this is what we'll do like within minutes of getting to class. I will ask the class to have any questions, and then we'll start. I'll ask that first seller to tell the class what they're selling, who they're representing, who they're selling to, what their goals are, minimum, primary, optimistic, what they've done with the buyer so far, maybe what buyer's options are, and all those kinds of things. The goal of that conversation, sellers, is to make sure the class is fully up to speed and knows what you're trying to do and knows what's going on. While the seller's doing that, I will be stepping out within Zoom to a breakout room with one person, and that's the buyer. Buyers, I will sit down with you, you individual buyer, I'll sit down with you in that breakout room, and we'll just go through the paper and make sure you understand all the things that are there. I will reiterate what your social style is supposed to be. I will make sure you know what your needs are supposed to be. I will then identify the objections that you may raise, whether what happens at the end. Are you going to buy or agree to whatever they're proposing or not? And that will be based upon a random roll of the dice. Do you go for the minimum, the primary, or the optimistic? And the minimum could be lower than what you as a seller on the other side wrote if you didn't write one that's really kind of low. But anyway, I'll explain everything to the buyer. When the buyer is fully prepared and feels like they're ready to go and knows what they're supposed to do, then we'll come back into the classroom. When we come back in the classroom, I will remove everyone else's video and everyone else's audio. So the only two pictures on the screen will be the buyer and the seller. Okay. And then I will say, when I disappear, and I'll be doing things with my computer, when I personally disappear, then seller, you know that's time for you to begin. And how you begin is your choice. I would just say, just kind of assume you're already sitting down and start your small talk. Start something at that point. So you can say something like, well, it's really great to see you today, George. You know, I've been looking forward to this conversation. And how's your weekend? You know, whatever you want to say, but just sort of start that way. Have something that you're going to say. So that's what's going to happen. And while the seller is talking to the buyer and they're having this conversation, it is truly a conversation. It's not a memorized pitch. It's not something that you're reading off of anything. Please don't have notes that you read on your computer word for word to answer objections or anything. I can see that with your eyes. Don't do that. Have a conversation with people. Observers, you're going to be writing those comments down that you think, what you think about what you see in front of them. And listen carefully. It's 8 minutes. That's plenty of time to make comments, but it's also, you can't just not be paying attention and they're out of time and they don't have any comments. So make sure you have those comments. Sellers, if you start off and you stumble or, oh man, I forgot what I was going to say, just keep going. We're not going to start and stop the video. So just get yourself back in shape and keep moving on with the role play. I will give no time warnings. I will not say you have 2 minutes left. I won't give you any kind of notification whatsoever. Just assume that I'm assuming you've created a scenario that you can do in 8 minutes, but there will be no time warning at the end. So if you get through at 8 minutes or before 8 minutes, an applause will occur, a little applause, I'll applause, or we'll have a machine that applauses or whatever. And then I will have everybody in the class come back in, kind of unmute and unvideo. And at that time, we're not going to give feedback. I will not tell you what I thought about the role play because I've got to watch it several times before I even am sure what I saw. Observers will finish their observation forms and put those up on the web. We put those up on Canvas, lay them up there. And the only thing I will say is I will tell the seller and the class, here's what I told the buyer to do. Okay, very, very briefly, just a few little sentences, and that's it. And then when we're through with that, we move on to the next role play and the next one and the next one. 4 role plays in a day. We have to move relatively quickly, but it will be fine. I promise you. After class is over, when class is over, a couple things have to happen. Observers, make sure that you have your observation forms put back right here in these places. Put them in the correct one. If you put them in the wrong one, you won't get credit, even though you have the name for the person. It's complicated, folks. I need you to help me. So no credit unless you put it back in the correct one, unless you have your name on it, unless you have the seller's name on it, unless you have 3 on each side, right? So make sure you put them back in the right place. And then sellers, what you need to do is to make sure that you right away send me via email your PowerPoints, your visuals, whatever you used or potentially could have used in that role play. Get that back to me so that I can then grade that and evaluate that and know what that is, which means that during the role play, you don't have to use all of your portfolio so that you can impress me. I'll read it. I'll see it. Only use during the role play what you need to use. All right. And that's it. I will then, hopefully within 24 hours, unless something happens with the internet, I will supply the seller with all of the observers' feedback in one file, and I'll also supply the seller with the video itself. Okay, so they'll have pretty soon the video so that they can watch themselves. They'll have all the classroom observers information. And then within 1 week, my goal will be to give you my grade and my feedback. Okay, so that's how it goes. I think that's all I need to tell you. I look forward to your presentations. Practice, 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 practice with someone. Go over objections. Make sure that you remember to identify needs. Don't forget to do that. Make sure you then sell to those needs. Don't forget to do that. And then make sure you're constantly asking questions like, how does this sound so far? Is this making sense? Does this sound like something you would like to do? Do you have any concerns? Okay, but don't just ask, are there any questions? Those are the three areas that I've just mentioned that people have the most trouble with. Again, I look forward to it, and I can't wait to see what you're all able to do and learn more about the product or service that you're selling. Enjoy preparing, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.